Hello. In this video, we'll look at warm-up participation activities, how to begin them and how to complete them each day for credit. We'll look at how to set them up. We'll look at some examples of students who have done these and some things to do and some things to avoid when completing warm-up participation activities. Each day in a Google Doc, students are presented with a photograph. Students are asked to give that photograph a 2 to 3 word title that demonstrates figurative language, such as alliteration, metaphor, simile, onomatopoeia. Students are then asked in 3 sentences to tell a story about the picture. Answers for this figurative language title and short writing activity can be anything, and the entire activity might not take more. Really shouldn't take more than 5 minutes. In addition to the language component, warm-up activities help get students logged in, participating, and ready to participate more in in-class activities. It also stirs for creative ideas in a writing environment. There are direct correlations between early buy-in in these participation activities and overall course success. The goal is to establish student buy-in from the very beginning, and in this video I can help you do that by just giving an understanding of how they're set up and how to complete them each day correctly. You're encouraged to come equipped to learn, discover the world of visual communications, and getting started each day with a visual and short writing exercise. We'll begin by looking at how to get your basic warm-up document set up, how to look at the information in the teacher's copy of the warm-up each day, where to copy and paste the information, and how to complete the warm-up activity. The first step is to open up a blank Google document, and at the very top you'll type your last name. In this case I'll type Jones, and then your first name, and then the word warm-ups, and then depending on what time you take the course, meaning which marking period and what year and what time of the day, we can put that in there. Let's assume we have this block 3, marking period 2, and it's 2019-2020 is the school year. So this is how the file name gets set up. The next thing to do is to share this with the teacher, in this case me. You can go into File and Share and type my information in there, and you'll be able to share it with me. As far as submitting your exercise goes, that's all you need to do. I'll place your information in a folder because your last name is first. It'll line up alphabetically. It'll be very easy. It will be very simple to grade the course warm-up activities. So you'll just share it with me one time. Okay. Let me make this a little larger so you can see it. So after you have the file name, your last name, your first name, and then warm-ups and the additional information, the next thing to do is put a title on this. So you put your name, and then we can put warm up participation activities. Correct my spelling here. And this is block 3, marking period 2, and this is the 2019-2020 school year. I'll hit enter a few times to get below it, and now I'll dress up my title by centering it, by choosing a more interesting font. There's a nice bold font, easy to read. Try to avoid fonts that look like cursive or script writing. And I'll make this title a little bit larger. Go ahead and do the same. And I will change the color scheme. I'm going to go with blues Try and use at least 5 colors to brighten up your heading here. You can choose the font, you can choose the colors. Just make it nice, big, and easy to read, and try to avoid the kind of script fonts altogether. They can be difficult to read. And here I have my title set up. So just to kind of review the basic setup, we have a file name that lists last name, first name, warm-up participation, the block, the marking period, and the year. And we also put this same title here and centered it up. Now we're ready to begin. So the next thing will be look in the classroom, in the Google or Schoology classroom, whichever we happen to be using, and to find the teacher warm-ups. And here you can see I have some warm-ups. This one is from the 4th of March. Simply go in and copy the picture and copy the date. You can highlight it and you can right-click to copy, or you can hit Command Copy. I'll just highlight it and hit Command, or excuse me, I'll right-click and go to Copy. I'll go into my warm-up, and right up top, I'll paste it in. Now I'll zoom out a little bit so it's not so large. And I'll take a look at what it's asking me to do. Looks like we have a picture of kind of an abandoned room here, and really could tell kind of countless stories about this. So the story part of it, you really can't go wrong. It asks to come up with 3 sentences to tell this story, and I'll do an example of this, and you'll see. You really can't get the sentences wrong unless you just don't have 3 sentences. So you want to make sure you have 3 sentences. A part of this that could go wrong is the first part, where it asks to use to give this photograph an interesting title that uses metaphor. Now you need to know what a metaphor is, and a metaphor is a comparison that does not use like or as. So this is figurative language. Similes and metaphors, when it comes to figurative language, are similar. Similes use like or as, and metaphors do not. So an example of a simile here, now I know it asks for metaphor, but sometimes it's easier to give an example of simile and then metaphor. A simile title would be, the room was as dark as a black hole, even though there happens to be a little light coming in the window. The room was as dark as a black hole. So that would be an example of simile because you use the word like. But in order to make that metaphor, I can just get rid of the like, and I'll type it. The room was a black hole. And there is my title. It's a metaphor. It makes a comparison saying that the room, or that the subject here, in this case I'll use the entire room. You could make a comparison with the jacket, with the light coming in the window, with the can. I use the entire room. And I'll just hit enter. And I used a good font here. It's the same kind. I'm going to bold my title. I'm going to center it up so it's easier. So it's easy to read and easy to tell where the title is. And now I'll write a little bit about it. And I'm really just making this up. As I look at this photograph, I'm just kind of coming up with a story. Really the first thing that comes to my mind. It was a sunny day in a normally dark place. Fix my errors here. The room hadn't seen life for ages. It welcomed the sun's, I'll put the summer sunshine. And I'll fix my errors. You should do the same. The room hadn't seen, it welcomed. And hit enter a few times, and it's complete. I can zoom in so you can see this. You could have written about the jacket. You could have written about looks like some type of desk. Could have written about the paint on the walls. Really anything. Making sure to recognize what type of figurative language it asks for, in this case, metaphor. The story meets the requirement for 3 sentences, and you really can't get that wrong. Make sure that your sentences start with a capital letter, end with a period, and have a subject and a predicate. So that's how you might do the first one. Now, the next step in this is to wait until the next day, and when the next day comes, I will have posted a new one in the classroom, and you will then copy and paste and do the same thing. However, sometimes there's a hiccup or a mistake made at where to put the next day's warm-up. So I want to just take a moment here and show you where the next day's warm-up goes. So as I or you look at your warm-up activity or your Google document, the newest warm-up activity, participation activity, is always on the top. It should be the first thing you see, the first thing I see when we go in to look at it. So here was the 4th of March. Okay, and here's looks like the 5th. So I will, on my copy, I will highlight this and copy it again. I'll go into, here's the one I just completed. And an important part of this, I'll paste it at the top. So now you can see, and don't be worried if your Google document gets a little jumbled like this, where things go on to different pages. We're using Google Docs as a resource here to collect the information and just to kind of get involved in class at the very beginning and just kind of be thinking about art and photography and writing. Don't be overly concerned that your Google document doesn't look neat. So if this is something that bothers you, you can shrink the pictures up a little bit to get everything on one page. But don't be overly concerned with the neatness of it. Be more concerned with the content of it. So I'll do another one here. This one asks for simile. We just talked about that. So I'll give this a title. I'll call this one Dead as a Doornail. I'll hit enter. It looks like my bold is on, so I'll take that off, or maybe I'll choose a different font here. Something simple, and I will center it and bold it. And I'll just begin writing. Something made noise from down below. The sad guests had new hope. Their friend and loved one had been mistakenly buried. Okay, you'll notice I have some spelling errors here, so it's as simple as right-clicking on them, or if you know what the word should be, just rewrite it. And sometimes when you're writing, kind of brainstorming in this situation, don't be overly concerned with spelling. Fix that at the end. Here it is. It's not overly neat. If you want to get it all on one page, you can, but that'll change as you paste each day's warm-up into the document. So that's, for the most part, how the warm-ups get done. They really shouldn't take more than 5 minutes, probably 3 or 4 once you've done a few, and we'll do the first few together. Right now, what I'd like to do is just show you some from students that have done them successfully, and then at the end here, I'll kind of show you something that I sometimes see from an unsuccessful student. And we'll go pretty quickly here. This is what I call model student A. I kind of showed this at the beginning. Here's the one that we just looked at. This one asks for an alliteration title. The student does a nice job of centering the title, bolding it. These are the same warm-ups, but done by different students. This student put some of his text or her text in italics, but it's very easy to read. Riding Hood 2.0. There's Dead as a Doornail again. Okay, here's another student. You can see titles don't have to be long. This one's 2 words. I'd say your titles should be about 2 words. 2 or 3 words total. Here's a 1-word title, and that's fine. This one probably asked for onomatopoeia, and so they wrote a noise. Bonk. Very good. This title is 5 words, getting a little on the long side. So here are some examples of good student completion of the warm-up activities and good formatting with the title centered, a text that's easy to read, and notice how the dates, the newest one is always on top. Probably the most common mistake is to paste new ones under, but it's worth taking the time now to talk about putting the new one always on top. Okay. One last thing I'd like to show you, and this is from a student I'd call model student EF. And sometimes this happens, and you should know that this would not warrant or get credit for the warm-up activities. Occasionally, we'll see a student who just copies and pastes the photograph and the question of the day without an answer. And while this does show some effort, it's not enough to really warrant any credit for these activities. It's just simply copying, pasting them into a document. So you want to go the extra step and take the extra minute or two to complete these by giving it a title and writing a few sentences about it. Again, it shouldn't take more than a few minutes to do this, but it's an important first step in our classes each day to get you logged in and ready and really kind of move creativity with words. And, we'll obviously do that with images in our visual communication classes throughout most of the course. But this is an opportunity to get creativity moving early and by storytelling. This wraps it up. These warm-up activities get graded 2 to 4 times per marking period, and the things that are graded are the formatting, the title, and the 3-sentence story. Make sure to pay attention to these ideas, and you'll have a lot of success with the warm-up activities.